on this episode of Postcards.
Of all the hats I've worn, it's just, I still love telling stories and meeting people, and that's my favorite part. That's what I love doing.
Even if it doesn't make me money, I had $1 million experience. Even if I make $1 billion movie, this film still will have probably the biggest part of my heart because it took so many years.
Postcards is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Additional support provided by Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farms, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota. On the web at shalomhillfarm.org. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com. The Lake Region Arts Council's Arts Calendar, an arts and cultural heritage-funded digital calendar showcasing upcoming art events and opportunities for artists in West Central Minnesota. On the web at lrac4calendar.org. Playing today's new music plus your favorite hits. 96.7 Cram. Online at 967cram.com.
Governor Kay Orr is sounding like a candidate these days. The governor was in Dawson County this afternoon. A registered dietitian from Healthy. Thanks, Leanne, for joining us today. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great week.
In 1979, I got my first job in television, and that was at KNOP TV in North Platte, Nebraska. I was hired as the anchor reporter, and in a very short time, within 6 months, I became the news director at KNOP TV. So I was one of the first female news directors in the country. And I worked there for 13 years, and then I got hired by KSTP TV in the Twin Cities. So I went from the 213th market to the 13th market in one giant leap, and I did show producing. I also was a field producer and did the medical beat for more than a decade at KSTP.
Good evening, everyone. That's what the Transportation Secretary Samuel Skinner says about the possibility of a rail strike tonight.
Growing up, there weren't a lot of role models for television, female reporters, producers, any of that. If they were on television, they were usually the weather person, or they did the society news and things like that. But I always had a loving of news. It's one of the things that I like doing, always knowing what's going on, and always read newspapers and things like that. So it's in my blood, covering the news. It seemed like it was like the golden years of television, and when I first got started, like how things have changed, has evolved to what it is today. And at that time, there were 3 major networks. That's where a majority of people got their news from, and the newscasts were even shorter. When they first started, they were 15 minutes long, and then they went to half hour. But they found that it was very profitable for the small stations. They would start off with a half-hour newscast, and before you know, there's an hour-long newscast, or there's multiple newscasts, and then the morning show started, and so that's really evolved over the years.
The North Platte High School principal is honored in an unusual way.
In my career, I've been very fortunate to interview people I would have only dreamed of growing up, from big Hollywood celebrities like Bob Hope and Johnny Carson. I didn't interview him, but I have a letter from him. We were trying to get him to come to an event in Nebraska. Music legends, Willie Nelson, and also just sports icons, Kirby Puckett. You name it. I've had the opportunity to interview people that I never dreamed of, including 5 of our U.S. presidents, from Gerald Ford to Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan, to George Bush, and then Bill Clinton, actually President Clinton came to our TV station at KSTP when I was there. I've had the opportunity to interview Buzz Aldrin, the man who walked on the moon, so that was pretty exciting and thrilling to meet him in person and talk to him. He was so down to earth, you know, you wouldn't think someone who's been to outer space would be like that, but just very personable. My favorite part about storytelling and being involved, I love telling people stories. Everyone has such a great story, and I try to find that, what makes that person unique and special.
Jody Ritaka Carlini has worked in all facets of TV in front of and behind the camera. She's worked in TV news, corporate medical media, as well as independent video production.
Last year, I was very honored and thrilled that I was nominated and I received a Silver Circle Award from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences for my 25 years plus in television. So it's not only for my work being recognized by my peers in that, but it's also giving back. You know, that I do things that are beyond just working at the TV station, beyond doing my work. It's trying to make a difference. Receiving this honor tonight, I truly feel like I have made it after all. Thank you. Of all the hats I've worn, you know, it's just, I still love telling stories and meeting people, and that's my favorite part. That's what I love doing. Even when we were doing the live surgeries on the internet, that was pretty exciting. Live broadcasts, live surgery, anything could happen. We had to be prepared to dump out if we needed to do that. We had a backup video of a previous surgery. But just to hear people from around the world calling in questions, you know, about this, and the surgeon is live, and it was for that 1 hour that we were broadcasting. And when we first started doing that, the producers thought this would be something professionals would want to watch. But we found we really had a lot more general public just watching and curious about things. Interesting thing, after we did one on kidney stones, I was at the one hospital, and this man, he goes, "I know you." And I looked at him, I think maybe I knew him from someplace, and he's got an IV, and he's obviously a patient at the hospital. And he said he saw my live surgery on the internet, and because of that, he was from Florida, that he wanted to have his surgery done here in the Twin Cities. Talk about the power of television and internet and media. I would say that my career in news has really opened my world to see and learn. I love learning, and I'm always learning, especially covering the health and medical beat. You know, there's always something to learn and know about, but that has really opened up my whole world. I mean, I would never have dreamed this growing up, that this is something I'd be able to do and get to meet world leaders and be on top of what's going on in the world, especially in this time when things are changing so rapidly.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dennis, and thank you for joining us and for closing out the week with us on this Friday, April 5th.
Have a nice evening. We'll see you at 10.
I come from a television background. My grandpa was a pioneer in television. My dad was a director on newscasts, and my mom was an anchor reporter. So I think storytelling has always been something that has been in my blood. Filmmaking really was an interest from a younger age, and that was kind of a dream. I would say my first big project was probably a documentary I did on my grandpa. I got a grant from SEC in White Bear. At that point, my grandpa, his health was declining, and I wanted to do something on him before it was too late. And we got this grant, drove out there, and just interviewed him because he was a pioneer in television, World War II veteran. His parents lived in the Great Depression. He was a first-generation immigrant from Italy. So for me, that was my first big project, I would say.
Buongiorno.
In Evansville, Indiana, he had, obviously one of the first television children's show, live gallery in front of kids.
The main thing I was interested in was kids shows. I did a show called Fire Chief Andy, Mr. Skeeter, I was a clown, all these different characters. And the shows I did got good ratings.
Nebraska television would not be the same if Ulysses Carlini hadn't been at KNOP TV.
He was a leader by example. So if if there was things to be done and there wasn't anybody to do them, he would pretty much do them himself.
Not only a great person, but a kind person, a person that would do anything for you if you asked him.
Him as my mentor, as a great teacher in this business, and not only that, just the business of life and getting along with people.
Coming to work, you want to be the leader. You want to have everybody enjoy what they're doing in the building as a team.
Life's not the same without you, you know.
Oh my.
I don't get my daily Italian lessons.
Yeah.
First and foremost of probably what I took from him, being patient, being compassionate, understanding everybody's situation, passionate about seeing the kids do extremely well.
He's nice, he's loving, he teaches a lot of Italian words. He's funny, he's nice to all of my family.
People say, well, you'll fill your dad's footsteps. Well, there's no way to fill my dad's footsteps. He's one of a kind.
His famous quote, if you will, is, "Everything is wonderful." And in his life, and that sums it up, that life is a wonder, and you never know what's going to happen that day. And if you approach it with a smile, if you approach it with an open heart, and if you approach it to embrace it, really, life is wonderful. Everything is wonderful.
After that, it was just kind of one big documentary after another big documentary, and then eventually it was my senior after that. So I came up with my senior year in high school. Originally, I wanted to make a film just like a comedy, and that was what was the premise, is I wanted to make a film that's a comedy, something that's fun, kind of in the vein of like an American Pie type vibe. And when I was 15, the first girl I really liked that liked me back, we kind of dated, and the following year after we met, I gave her a call. She lived kind of far away, and that was like before I had my license. And I just said, I'd love to see you. And her dad called my parents saying that she committed suicide. And that was really heavy because I didn't know how to take it. I didn't talk to anyone about it. I just kind of buried it inside. And that really affected me in a lot of ways, I think. So to me, it went from me wanting to make just a comedy to making a story that matters, a story that, could help people and give hope. So then that kind of shaped more of the serious tones of the film. And so I really came up with the story probably right when I was in high school and wrote a couple drafts. They weren't good. And then, I tried making it when I was in film school. And at that point, I was still learning how to make a film, how to make a project. And it wasn't until after film school that I was really ready to make it. Really, really talented cinematographer, Kevin Horn, who I went to film school with MCTC, was available to shoot it. And then all these people I met kind of throughout the way of becoming a filmmaker wanted to be a part of it. So that was kind of the origins of making it.
Yeah, that's me. I was kind of a dork. When I was 9 years old, life was wonderful. I had a mom, a dad, and I had friends. And everything changed. I think it's time for me to actually experience a real teenager's life. My dad's gonna be gone for the whole weekend.
This is your chance to get known. Can't wait for your party, dude. It's gonna rock.
You said you came to our school to experience the real teenage life.
Well, this is it, buddy.
Yeah, shots. You take shots in shot glasses.
Supposed to burn like that?
Yeah, it burns.
Sarah Anderson? Her and Brad have been together for years.
I saw that girl again today.
Brian, right?
No, man, I mean, she's perfect.
I fly through the stars to get to you.
Time for Papa Bear to drain the main vein. Ah!
The really cool thing about my senior year, it brought so many people together. I think anytime you do a film, that happens. But with our film, it was special in a lot of elements because a lot of my best friends today are people I met through the movie. People that met through the film got married. To me, that's a cool thing to think, like, this marriage happened because our film. These people that became roommates happened because our film. These people that dated happened because our film. And a lot of these friendships are some of my best friends still today, years later. And all of these relationships blossomed through making this film. If you have a dream, don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, because at the end of the day, no one knows what you're capable of. Anything is possible. And, you know, I'm not even close to where I want to be. And I try to lead by example. I hope to inspire people. You live one life, so why not live your dream, you know? And why not be the person you want to be? Even with our film, it's a little film. Jay Leno looked at our film. Even if it doesn't make me money, I had $1 million experience. Even if I make a $1 billion movie, this film still will have probably the biggest part of my heart because it took so many years. It was the film that I gave everything. I gave everything, every part of myself to.
Brian Robinson is speaking with us today about his bestseller book, My Senior Year.
Yeah, that's me. Not him. Him. That's my mom. Well, at least at the time she was. I kept asking my dad where she went. He always said she would be right back. I wanted to be like most kids and have recess to play football with the guys. I wanted to go biking in the summer with friends as if we were a pack of birds with nowhere to go but just fly because we had the freedom to. I wanted to be a part of something. But for me, it just seemed like a far dream from being reality.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brian. Happy birthday to you.
A succession was the first lesson of my life.
You see, when I was 9 years old, life was wonderful. I had a mom, a dad, and I had friends. Then, everything changed.
Hey Mom, I'm home! Hey Mom, at school today we got to dice. I'm just saying I'm gonna be in my room.
When my best friend Joey moved, it was the worst day of my life. I soon found out that things would get much worse.
Then I will survive.
Why are you always drunk when I come home from the road? Every time I come through that door, I find you laying on the couch with a bottle of liquor in your hand. What's Brian gonna think?
You're never home!
Why do you expect me to earn money to support you and Brian? I have to be out on the road driving all the time.
I never understood why my mom and dad yelled so much. Then, the yelling just stopped.
Mom, please don't go.
Sorry.
My mom disappeared for good.
Please, Mom. There's gotta
Supposedly,
be another way.
she went on a trip.
I'm sorry, son.
Please. Don't leave me.
But that trip was a one-way ticket. It seemed like there was no return. So then, me and Dad, like everything else in our lives, just packed up and kept on trucking. You see, my dad wanted me and him to be very close. This could never happen with me going to school and his career as a semi-driver. So after my parents split up, my dad took some classes so he was able to be my teacher. And from then on, I was homeschooled. I always wondered what a real life would be like. What if my mom and dad would have stayed together and nothing changed from when I turned 9? Maybe I would have a good friend or two, and even a girlfriend. Every day I wonder about that life I've never had. I guess right now, life is an if.
What's wrong?
We've been driving for 10 hours straight.
Why don't you go sleep in the bunker?
You know I'll just get a headache if I sleep on that.
Well, it's 7 o'clock now. What do you want to do?
We haven't gone bowling in a while.
Sure.
You really need to cut down on smoking, Dad. What are you at, a pack a day?
Hey, Tom, what's your QTH?
20 is about an hour away from the magic mile.
10-4, keep the wheel spinning.
Roger that. After this shipment, we'll head to the alleys.
Sounds like a plan. She was.
Postcards is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Additional support provided by Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farms, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota. On the web at shalomhillfarm.org. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com. The Lake Region Arts Council's Arts Calendar, an arts and cultural heritage funded digital calendar showcasing upcoming art events and opportunities for artists in West Central Minnesota. On the web at lrac4calendar.org. Playing today's new music plus your favorite hits, 96.7 Cram. Online at 967cram.com.